Good morning, everybody. I just watched a video by Maple Leaf Coins, a nice little video about the problem with credit card debt and the escalating problem by paying your minimum charge and compound interest and so on and so on. And he makes a lot of good points, and you ought to go look at it. But it made me think more and more about the funk that this economy is in. Not only have we shipped all the good jobs overseas, and that we're paying people half in the auto industry what we used to pay them, and those people are happy to work for 14 bucks an hour because it's more than many people make, and the ones that are making 28 bucks an hour are just hoping they can hang on till the pensions kick in, and General Motors and these other companies are still in business, and they haven't raided their pensions. But one of the major problems is this student credit card debt, not credit card, but student debt in general. Because of our good Congress, it's totally unforgivable debt, and because of the way that students act and their parents now are are a lot of them in positions where they can't help their kids go to college. They assume this a lot of debt. Some of them are coming out with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. My cousin's son is marrying a girl that has $200,000 in college debt. It's just it's just incredible. For the rest of her life, she'll be paying whatever I think the minimum is that they take 15% from your salary. But I think that's the I don't know if that's the minimum or the maximum they can take if you can't pay the usual amount that they want. And Congress, in their great wisdom, has allowed these companies that make these loans to increase the interest at their whim. So, if just the time you think you're getting caught up, they might increase the interest rate on you. But what does that debt do? See, not merely the fact that you're carrying it on your shoulders, but it's a permanent part of your credit record, and it might prevent you from going out and doing something as simple as renting a house. It might prevent you, in some instances, from getting a job. And the worst part is that is the group of people from 24 to 35 that are notoriously the big spenders. Why? Because they're out looking for houses. And you buy a house, you buy a washing machine, you buy everything that goes in that house. And if you don't have the credit for it, you can't buy it. And that washing machine doesn't get sold. The guy that sells the washing machines loses his job, and yada yada yada. The same thing with the rugs, the floors, the framers. They're just not working anywhere near capacity, let alone if they're working at all. So you carry this college debt around, and you end up like 85% of the kids that graduated college last year ended up living in their parents' basement. so, uh, so they're not out purchasing, and they might want to, their car might be falling apart, and they're spending a lot of money on their car piecemeal now and then to keep it on the road, whereas they should be making a payment on a new car, which would probably give them much better miles per gallon, etc., and be safer car and everything else. But they're not out there buying, so they can't rent, they can't buy a house, they can't afford a car. They're sitting home. Their parents, who might at that time think about going out and buying some retirement home some other place, can't do it because they don't want to abandon their children. Now the kids that come home to live, they might end up in communities that are totally wrecked as far as the working situation goes, but yet because they don't have the mobility that we had in our day, uh, they find themselves stuck there, and they might be stuck with minimum wage or just above it work. So what's the Congress do? The Congress bitches and moans and don't even want to raise the minimum wage. They want to keep people down as best they can. Let the 1/10 of 1% make all the increase in gross domestic product. That doesn't help the country out. Doesn't help anybody out. So the parents who might have thought of downsizing and using that money as retirement, they might have to stay working just to keep their kids in food and clothing, and to pay the taxes on the house where their sons and daughters are now residing, which is their house. So that this college debt, something has to be resolved. Many of the positions that used to be sought after aren't sought after anymore. For the first time, there's going to be shortage in, or there's going to be excess, I'm saying, of nurses because hospitals and Medicare cut back so much that they're laying nurses off. And it used to be you were a nurse, you could get a job any place, anywhere. No longer the case. The whole paradigm of jobs and what you can do is changing to where the point was that we are basically a country of services. And if you don't have a service, especially say you're middle aged and you get laid off, why would they hire you? Because you're used to getting a nice wage. So they'll hire some kid coming out of college that has to pay off his college debt, and they'll get him at half of probably what they would get you at, and you're stuck at 45 or 50, and hardly anybody wants you to work. How are you going to survive to your retirement age? And then when you get to retirement age, what are you going to have? You're going to have Social Security if it's still there, but that's not enough to live on, and certainly not enough to keep you living in the style to which you thought you would like to become accustomed. So this is going to be the first society where our children are worse off than the adults, and the promise of them getting to be better off is slimmer every day because the world economy is so interlocked now that until the whole world has raised its minimum wage up, that there's not much hope that we're going to be able to accomplish anything here. Certain companies now, look at China. Even China now is exporting clothing and work and stuff like that to places like Bangladesh. You'll see Chinese and other countries starting to build warehouse frameworks and construction stuff in Africa because labor is going to be cheap in Africa for years and years and years to come. So long as we are our our government can be bought and sold and not help the little guy up and and tends to favor the rich because they're the ones that put up the money to get them reelected, and they're the ones that give them a guaranteed job when they get out of Congress, so that the 1/10, the 1%ers are going to do fine, and the rest of us are going to support them because those suckers are living on our shoulders.